To break it down, he wants to know what happens to people if they become Nephilim. Do they become spiritual?
Well, I don't know that. I don't know that it's going to be a question of becoming a Nephilim. Um, I think that whatever the case, if you become something other than human, then you're automatically disqualified from from the gift of God, from salvation. Salvation is for the human race, and exclusively for the human race. The New Testament makes that clear. It's not for the angels. And I would say at this point in time, in the age in which we live, I think we can say confidently it's not for hybrids.
Are you
Uh,
familiar with that part of the book of Enoch, David, about the?
Yes,
Okay.
in Enoch chapter 15, it says that when the Nephilim died, that
yeah,
their departed spirits became the devils, as we
they
would
became
understand.
vagabonds in the earth. Yeah, they became unclean spirits, evil spirits. Um, that was a function of being the offspring of the Watchers, because the sentencing by God on those entities was that they weren't wholly of their fathers, of their Watcher fathers, and they weren't entirely human either, of the race of their mothers. And so they neither belonged with the human race, nor did they belong with the Watchers in heaven. So their judgment was that they would basically have no resting place, that they would be vagabonds in the earth, that they would experience all of the lusts of the flesh, but have no flesh, be hungry, be thirsty, and so forth. So that was a condemnation. That was a sentencing that was specific to those entities. Now, if a human becomes something other than human and dies, I don't believe that that the same would result for that individual. I think that that person would die and would go to hell, frankly. Now, if, and I believe this will happen again in the future, but if you do have another scenario similar to the Genesis 6 affair, in which these entities descend and they procreate with human women, and you have offspring that are born in that context, then the same would apply to that offspring. The very same would apply in terms of the sentencing that the offspring of the Watchers in the pre-flood world were subject to. In other words, yes, you would become a vagabond in the earth, your spirit. You would become an unclean spirit. Your spirit would become an unclean spirit in the earth. A possessing spirit, by the way, that's what those are. Those possessing spirits are those unclean spirits. And so in that case, yes. But again, if you were just to engage in cross-species genetics, say with some other kind of genes were incorporated into your genome, I don't think that you become a Nephilim. I think that's a very specific thing.
Yeah. In the book of Isaiah 26:14, it says, they are dead, Rephaim, they shall not live. They are deceased, they shall not rise. There is no resurrection for the Rephaim or the Nephilim. That is the gift of God for the human race that comes as the end result of our salvation through the cross. And this is why this is such a preeminently important issue.
Okay, Zilstra's question from YouTube chat. Are you aware of the psychiatric that was just presented at the CES in LV about transferring your consciousness into a sleeve? Or I'm not sure that she says sleeve, but it could be self misspelled.
Are you talking about transferring your consciousness during REM sleep into a clone?
I'm not sure. She didn't say, or who.
Yeah, there's all kinds of things going around now, both in the scientific world and also just internet internet mythology concerning the transferring of human consciousness either into clone bodies or being able to hold your consciousness outside of your body and then put it back in. I mean, there's again that very intriguingly that topic crosses over into the alien abduction phenomenon, which is I think is an aspect of alien abductions that is not very well known.
Actually, we're going to be dealing with some of that on a program
Next Saturday night, as a
next
matter of
Saturday
fact,
night.
on the
As a matter
Midnight
of
Ride.
fact, David and Nathan Reynolds will be dealing with that aspect of the alien abduction things and SRA. Calvin's question is based on alien disclosure, assuming the alien deception happens in our near future. Would that make all these sci-fi scenarios arrive faster within our lifetime, since all kinds of prophecies are pointing to end times happening in our lifetime, etc.?
Well, I think a lot of the technologies that we have now, we had help in developing them, and in some cases, they came about as a result of reverse engineering. But the disclosure of an alien presence on Earth, in my mind, would certainly accelerate, could very well accelerate. For example, let's use genetic engineering as an example. If we know now that the human race is highly mutant at this point because of genetic degeneration, we have a lot of deleterious mutations in our genome, which have made us weaker specimens of the human race than our antecedents, especially our pre-flood antecedents. So it may be that, and I believe that in the near future, the human genome is simply going to become inviolable, that there are going to be so many deleterious mutations we won't be able to keep up with, even with genetic modification and gene therapy. We won't be able to keep up with the mutations. We have such a heavy mutational load as human beings that I think that it will require dramatic modification to repair the entropy that is present in our genome at this point in time. Now, enter an alien faction. Say that there's disclosure, the alien presence is here. What if they offer us a means to repair our genome by crossing our genome with their genome? Then you enter into a scenario in which, then you can be talking mark of the beast and all kinds of things. But I see that as extremely plausible for the future. I do believe an event like that will happen, and I do believe that salvation will be offered to the human race by means of genetic material coming from them, non-human genetic material, their genetic material, to repair us, to fix us. And they may even say that they're the ones that provided the material in the first place.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure they will.
So I can imagine that being in fact, I do imagine that in this book I'm writing as a primary contingency.
There's so many different scenarios on this topic. Melissa wants to know, many young adults use different terminology for labeling people. And as we head into this world where genetically modifying the body becomes the norm, do you think it might be possible that those who so not genetically modified might be known as virgins, considering their genetics are pure, giving a different view on the 144,000? And she says she enjoys our show very much.
I don't think so, and the reason why is because there's a reason why the days are shortened for the sake of the elect. And that if those days were not shortened, this is what Jesus said, if those days were not shortened, even the elect would be deceived and all flesh would be corrupted. So I think that God shortens the time specifically because all flesh, including the flesh of Christians, is getting corrupted. And if he didn't shorten the time, there wouldn't be any candidates left on the earth for salvation. precisely because of genetic mutation and genetic modification. So either through nanotech, as we talked about, or just or the alien contingency, or the just the germline genetic engineering. I mean, there's a host of different reasons why that may be the case. So I think that is the specific reason why the days are shortened for our sake. God does not allow it to progress so far so as to inhibit salvation for the elect.
Okay, Ellie wants to know if while you were in Steve Quayle were in South America, if you saw something that changed your mind on the demons.
I don't know what specifically what you're thinking specifically in terms of changed our mind. No, it just reinforces what personally I can say it reinforces living in Peru reinforces the idea that these unclean spirits are in fact the spirits of the hybrids from the pre-flood age who are disembodied and seeking a body with which to fulfill the lusts of the flesh. That has been reinforced, having dealt with demon-possessed people in Peru.
Okay. Ray from YouTube wants to know, what are the meanings, the significance of the message of Fatima? And I'm not
familiar with Fatima.
Okay. All right. Well, that alleviates the next question. He wanted you to answer in Spanish.
You wanted me to answer in Spanish?
Yeah, so just tell him in Spanish that you don't know
It's far too late for Spanish.
Okay. Lois wants to know, well, actually, it's just a comment. If all people were healed and if all the poor were rich, if all the problems were solved, would you sure as people still have that longing to see him? That's a good point, Lois.
Well, I think that here again we have a clue to Jesus's commentary on the end of the age when he says that that they'll overcome the dragon by the word of their testimony, by not loving their lives unto death, which I believe is a Revelation. I believe that not loving your life unto death, part of that paradox is not loving your life to the extent that you would do anything to extend it, to modify yourself in order to continue to live, that you're willing to die a human being, that you're not willing to enhance and continue on as something other than human for life extension or for the eradication of certain kinds of ailments, especially genetic. So, and that's going to be a real issue in the future. I mean, if all of your neighbors are, this won't be probably the case for me, but it may be the case for my kids or my grandkids. If your neighbors have a life expectancy of 120, and you're just an old-fashioned, for lack of a better term, crappy human being that only is going to be living probably into your 80s, that's going to be a massive temptation for people. And you're going to have all kinds of ridiculous doctrines arising out of your Kenneth Copeland type preachers. Mm-hmm. That God wants us to live, He wants us to prosper, He wants us to live long, and if we live longer, that just gives us more time to preach the gospel. Blah blah blah. I mean, you can only imagine the doctrines that will arise to justify enhancement. Mm-hmm. And when I'm talking about life extension, what I mean is the kind of life extension that will require an alteration to the human condition, to the human genome. Because all of us are already using technologies that extend our lives. The life extension per se, in and of itself, is a great thing. I mean, if you can take vitamins and extend your life 10 years by doing so, or exercising, or getting a pacemaker, or using an oxygen tank, then I think you would be a fool not to do it. Because you can enjoy your life and you enjoy your family, and your friends and your family can enjoy you. But it's where the problems are going to occur is when life extension involves cross-species genetics, when life extension involves some kind of a procedure that is a breach of biblical doctrine. And we'll get to that point.
Copeland would probably say that the Pope told him it was okay. He's got some real connections going on there. And we have gone in a little past midnight already, Timothy. How are you doing on time? Do you want to stick around for a while? I know for us crappy human beings, it's getting kind of late. And if you want to wrap her up, that's fine. And if you want to stick around for another half hour, do you want to wrap it up?
If we were transhuman, we could go on.
There you go.
Well, we have about
5 hours.
There's really not too many more. About 5
So,
more.
do you
We're
want
just
to?
the old-fashioned type of worn-out human beings that the brain function starts to lessen as we get deeper into the night. I can go on for a little while longer.
All right. Well, let's try to. We got 5 here, Donna. So let's try to get them in here as quickly as we can.
April from YouTube. If they killed and cloned a follower of Yah, would that clone have the ability to be saved or possibly want to find Yah?
I have no idea.
Yes, kind of hard to answer that, isn't it?
I have no idea. I've often thought about what does it mean to be a clone. I think there are clones walking around us. I think alien abduction scenarios. I think people are already being put into clone bodies. Might even be happening routinely. This is a bit of a rabbit trail, but I know a friend. I have a number of acquaintances who I suspect have been placed into clone bodies in an abduction experience. Why? Because when they came back, their dogs didn't recognize them. Their kids, in some cases, couldn't recognize them. Something was changed, and during their abduction scenario, it was the typical black box scenario. If you don't know what that is, that right there is a very deep rabbit trail. So I don't know what that means, what it would mean to be cloned. I have no idea. I don't want to find out, but I don't know because it's your own body. If it could be done without really changing much of anything in terms of your soul, I just don't know.
Okay. I had a question about could any of this genetic technology be put in the shots that all of our military get without their knowledge to enhance them?
I mean, it could be, sure. I think that if there were modifications that created some kind of an enhancement, certainly those modifications in the future, at least. I don't know if it's available now, at least in the public purview. I would imagine it is in the super soldier programs, but yeah, I think that could be viable. I think theoretically speaking, there's viruses that make changes to genes, to genetic material, to DNA. So certainly that's a possibility. Is it happening now? I don't know. I'm inclined to think that it's not happening yet, at least not in the open. But I think it could.
Well, Lois wants to know, do you think the Kandahar giant was created by the Russian government as a super soldier?
No, I think the Kandahar giant is a remnant of a very ancient race living under the ground.
Okay, and this is from Lydia. Do you think that artificial intelligence is really the key for demons to inhabit?
Not artificial intelligence per se, but we talked about the possibility of demons inhabiting robots, for example, or some kind of an artificial body. But artificial intelligence is a whole nother. It's a whole nother situation that causes all kinds of more potential problems.
Okay, the Christopher wants to know, do you believe the part in Daniel that references a ruling entity of iron and clay would be referencing transhumanism and the demonizing of artificial intelligence.
I don't believe iron mixed with clay references artificial intelligence. I believe it denotes Genesis 6 2.0, a second incursion, and I believe it's intimately connected with the dragon and the beast in the book of Revelation, with the 10 horns. I mean, with the 10 heads, I should say.
Okay, Caesar says that in the book Deconstructing the Illuminati, it explains how the Illuminati had its origins in Afghanistan and how it influenced the Middle East much more than Adam Weishaupt in Germany. And in the dream, Nebuchadnezzar's dream, on the toes of the statue, the iron mixed to clay, the word in Strong's Concordance 6151 is Arab, and that is a secret ingredient of the gene of the beast used. So once again, another question about nanotechnology and that. So I believe you already answered that.
I would say that the Illuminati ultimately have their roots, in terms of their Luciferian religion, ultimately have their roots in Sumeria, the Tower of Babel, Nimrod, and then, of course, going back into the pre-flood world. But I think that, see, here again, here's a whole other issue, is multiple personalities and the fractioning of the human psyche. We know that the human psyche can be fractured, and that a person, and that certain demonic entities can inhabit certain parts of that person's personality, and that a person's very personality can be fractured. So that maybe that's a clue to what could happen with cloning, or even human consciousness being transferred into a machine. I don't know, but I do know that the fracturing of one's psyche is absolutely possible and is happening and has happened.
The question by Allie, I guess she wanted to ask about Stephen Hawking, and she feels like he's been modified so much that he's really not real anymore, is what someone had posted in the chat. But I missed her original question. But what do you know much about Stephen Hawking? I mean, do you think he has been already genetically modified, or possibly with some of this?
Yes, it's probably the gene therapy type, but I don't think so, because I think it would cure him. I mean, if they had the technology to fix him on the genetic level. I think he's perfectly human. I just think he's being integrated slowly with biotechnology and with cybernetics, but I don't think that he's any less human because of it.
Okay, this question is from, Allie's wanting to clarify. Says, sorry. She said, I also believe that consciousness is already being transferred into other human bodies, and she wanted to get your opinion on her theory. I don't think that Stephen Hawking lives in that body 24/7. What do you think?
I don't know the extent of what he's doing, what they're trying to do. I have no idea, but I would assume that a guy like Hawking would be a good candidate for experimentation in terms of trying to move his consciousness into another body. I don't know if that's happening, but I could imagine him being desirous of that, and of people wanting to preserve his mind and his consciousness and give him a new body. I mean, he would certainly be a good candidate for it, because he's brilliant. I disagree with him, but he's brilliant. So I don't know. I have no idea what kind of treatments he's getting, and what they're doing to try and cure him.
But I could see how the world would react if he did get some kind of miracle cure. They would all want to do it, because
again, he would be a great test case, Hawkins.
Right.
And I'm not even sure that he would subject himself to that kind of thing.
I have no idea. I don't know too much about him recently. Okay, in Revelation 17:12 and 13, and the 10 horns which you saw are the 10 kings which have received no kingdom yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind and shall give their power and strength to the beast. Is the one mind not an artificial intelligence, but autonomous intelligence? That is to say, singularity, the image of the beast that can speak?
No, I believe that's a transfer of authority.
Okay. Christopher wants to know, when an image of the beast is erected in the abomination of desolation and given the ability to speak, could this be a collective of all artificial intelligence that has been demonized and in control of governments and their machine intelligent military?
I don't think so. I think when you talk about artificial intelligence being demonized, I'm not sure that those two things go together. Artificial intelligence, it depends on your view of the singularity. If you believe that a machine can gain consciousness, well, then that opens up certain contingencies. If you don't believe that a machine can gain consciousness, I personally don't believe that a machine can become sentient. I think that machines are going to surpass us in terms of their ability to, obviously their computing, they've already surpassed the human brain in terms of their computing power, but even in their ability to rationalize, I think they will surpass us, but I'm not sure that they will ever truly gain sentience, at least not like humans have sentience. So I don't know that there's going to be a direct interaction between demonic entities and artificial intelligence.
Okay, there were a couple of questions. They're long questions, and I've determined that most of the questions are questions, but some questions are just comments. So I've decided not to ask one of them, and the other one is so long that I have trouble deciphering down to the real question. So in my mind, I believe questions are finished for the night. And
Well,
I'm sorry
good.
if I offended anybody by not asking their question, but I'm doing the very best I can. And welcome to John Hall over there too.
Yeah, and I just want to say that a big thank you to Timothy. This has just been a wow show. I mean, this has just been a wire melding show on, as I say, I think this is the issue of the hour. And Brother Hall, it's good to see you to come on here and close us out. What do you think about the ride tonight?
I've watched the entire show. I want to make 2 points. One, I want to reiterate what you said at the beginning of the show. This is a very important topic for people to listen to. And the second one, Timothy made about 10, 15 minutes ago about blood. In the scriptures, people get this misconstrued. I'm a trauma 1 ER nurse. That's what I do. If you come into our ER and you've been in a wreck or you've been shot or you've been stabbed and you need blood, the doctor isn't going to care what religious background you have. He's going to transfuse you to save your life. Here's the key to this for those who are dead set against it. You shall not ingest it. There's 2 differences between that, ingesting and intravenously, okay, to save your life. So I just wanted to make that point. Very well said, Timothy. It's human to human. And this is a very important topic for everybody. Vaccinations has been in the news. We've done plenty of shows on it. The women's show, you guys have talked about it extensively, but this takes it to another level that the enemy is going to use against you, and you need to be aware of it and listen to these watchmen that are on the wall. What a show tonight, guys! What a show! Very well.
You know, I get a lot of people complain when I refer to us, the modern human species, as crappy versions of human beings. And just to clarify that, in comparison to Adam, believe me, we are.
Oh yeah.
We're highly mutant. We're degenerate, but don't worry, fear not. Trust in Jesus, and the resurrection will rectify that situation.
That's why he came.
Amen. Well, I just want to give a big thank you to Timothy